Stop right there. If you're a UK pensioner or you know someone who is, the next 60 seconds could literally save you thousands of pounds. November 2025 has brought 3 absolutely massive pension bombshells that are flying under the radar, and honestly, I'm furious that more people aren't talking about this. We've got millions of pensioners about to lose critical winter support, £800 million that was never paid to people who desperately needed it, and a tax trap that's going to catch out hundreds of thousands of retirees who thought they'd planned everything perfectly. I'm not being dramatic here. This affects nearly every single pensioner in Britain, and if you don't know what's coming, you could lose out big time. So grab a brew and stay with me, because what I'm about to share is absolutely critical. Welcome back to the channel, and if this is your first time here, make sure you hit that subscribe button because we cut through all the noise and give you straight talking information about UK pensions, benefits, and your money. November 2025 is turning out to be an absolutely brutal month for British pensioners, and the government seems to think they can quietly slip these changes through without people noticing. Well, we're noticing, and we're going to make sure everyone knows exactly what's going on. Today, we're covering 3 major issues that are all hitting at once, creating what can only be described as a perfect storm for retirees. First, the winter fuel payment cuts, leaving 9.5 million pensioners out in the cold. Then there's this shocking revelation that the government has underpaid pensioners by £800 million. And finally, there's a tax time bomb ticking away that's going to explode in the faces of anyone who has even a modest amount of additional income. This is serious stuff, and by the end of this video, you'll know exactly where you stand and what you need to do. Let's dive straight into the first issue, and honestly, this is causing the most immediate pain for millions of people. The winter fuel payment has been around for over 25 years, introduced back in 1997 as a universal benefit for all pensioners to help them heat their homes during the coldest months. Every single person over state pension age used to automatically receive between £200 and £300, depending on their age and circumstances. No questions asked, no means testing, just a simple payment to help keep the heating on when temperatures drop. That's all changed now, and the change is absolutely brutal. The government has decided to means test this benefit, and now only pensioners receiving pension credit or certain other means-tested benefits will qualify. The government reckons this will save them about £1.5 billion a year. But here's the shocking reality. Instead of 11 million pensioners receiving this support, we're now looking at only about 1.4 million people getting the payment. They've cut the number of recipients from 11 million down to 1.4 million. That's nearly 10 million pensioners who've just lost this support. Now, I can already hear some people saying this only affects wealthy pensioners who don't really need help, right? Wrong. Completely wrong. The threshold for pension credit is shockingly low. We're talking about single pensioners with a weekly income of less than £218, or couples getting less than £332 per week. If you're earning even a tiny bit more than this, you get absolutely nothing. There's no gradual reduction, no tapered support, just a cliff edge. Think about what that actually means. Imagine you're a pensioner receiving £220 a week. You're literally just £2 above the threshold. You get nothing. Meanwhile, your neighbour receiving £218 gets the winter fuel payment, plus pension credit, plus access to other benefits. The person who's slightly better off ends up significantly worse off. It's backwards, and charities like Age UK have been shouting that this is going to push hundreds of thousands of vulnerable elderly people into fuel poverty. The timing couldn't be worse. Energy prices are still sitting at around £1,900 a year for a typical household. For pensioners on fixed incomes, many living in older, poorly insulated properties, losing £200 to £300 in winter fuel support is genuinely terrifying. We're already getting reports of elderly people making the choice between heating their homes properly or buying enough food. This is happening right now, in 2025, in one of the richest countries on the planet. What really gets me is the complete lack of compassion in how this has been implemented. There are pensioners who worked their entire lives, paid their taxes for 40 or 50 years, who are now being told they don't deserve a couple £100 to keep warm because they're a few pounds over an arbitrary threshold. These aren't wealthy people. These are ordinary pensioners who maybe saved a bit extra or who get a small workplace pension, and now they're being penalized for it. Let's move on to the second massive issue, and this one is mind-blowing. The Department for Work and Pensions has finally admitted they've underpaid pensioners by a staggering £800 million. That's money that should have been paid years ago but wasn't, because of what they're calling administrative errors. What a nice way to describe a massive systemic failure that left hundreds of thousands of vulnerable people shortchanged for years. The vast majority of these underpayments have affected women, specifically married women, widows, and divorced women who reached state pension age before April 2016 under the old system. Under the old rules, married women could claim a pension based on their husband's national insurance contributions, usually around 60% of his basic state pension. When certain things happened, like the husband turning 80 or passing away, the wife's pension should have been automatically increased. But in hundreds of thousands of cases, it just didn't happen. Computer systems that were supposed to flag these changes didn't. Manual checks that should have caught the errors weren't done. And pensioners who had no reason to believe they weren't getting what they were entitled to just carried on receiving the wrong amount, month after month, year after year. Some of these women have been underpaid for over a decade. The DWP has now identified around 237,000 people who were underpaid. The average amount owed is about £3,400. But some people are owed tens of thousands. There have been cases of women discovering they're owed over £50,000 in back payments. That's life-changing money for most pensioners, money they should have had all along. If you're watching this and thinking this might affect you, listen carefully. If you're a woman who reached state pension age before April 2016 and you're married, widowed, or divorced, you must check your pension amount. The DWP says they're proactively contacting people, but given their previous failures, don't wait, be proactive. You can request a state pension statement online through the Government Gateway website or call the Pension Service directly. If something doesn't look right, ask for a review. This is your money. You're entitled to it. What makes this infuriating is the optics. At the exact same time the government is cutting the winter fuel payment to save money, they're admitting they owe pensioners £800 million because of their own mistakes. They're taking money away from millions with one hand while admitting they failed to pay hundreds of thousands with the other. You couldn't make it up. Now let's talk about the third major issue, and this is going to catch a lot of people off guard. We're looking at a tax shock coming for pensioners, stemming from the state pension increasing while tax thresholds stay frozen. This is fiscal drag, essentially a stealth tax increase. The state pension is going up in April 2026 thanks to the triple lock, which guarantees it rises by whichever is highest out of inflation, average earnings growth, or 2.5%. With wage growth strong, pensioners are looking at an increase of around 4%. The new state pension is currently £221.50 per week, about £11,590 a year. With a 4% increase, that rises to roughly £12,000. That sounds great, except here's the problem. The personal allowance has been frozen at £12,570 since 2021, and it's staying frozen until at least 2028. So your state pension is rising to £12,000, leaving you just £570 of your personal allowance before you start paying tax. This becomes a real problem for millions. If you have any other income beyond your state pension, you're going to be paying tax. A small workplace pension of a few £1,000s, rental income, savings interest, part-time work, anything pushes you over the threshold. Let me give you a real example. Say you're getting the full new state pension of £12,000 plus a modest workplace pension of £5,000. That's £17,000 total. Your personal allowance is £12,570, so you've got £4,430 over the threshold. You're paying 20% tax on that, which is £886. That's nearly 900 quid in tax you might not have been expecting. Here's another thing that catches people out. The state pension is paid gross, no tax taken off. If you're also receiving a private pension taxed through PAE, your tax code gets adjusted to collect the tax owed on your state pension through your private pension payments. People see their private pension payments suddenly drop and don't understand why. For higher earners in retirement, once your total income goes over £50,000, you start paying 40% tax. These are people who saved diligently into pensions their whole lives, and now a huge chunk is going to the taxman. The Institute for Fiscal Studies estimates freezing the personal allowance will drag an additional 3 million people into paying income tax, and a significant chunk will be pensioners. So what can you do? On the winter fuel payment, if you're near the pension credit threshold, check if you qualify. Around 800,000 eligible pensioners aren't claiming pension credit, and if you're entitled, that's your gateway to the winter fuel payment plus other support. Check your eligibility on the government website or call the Pension Credit Helpline. On the underpayments, be proactive. Get your state pension statement. Check the amount. If you're a woman who reached pension age before 2016, especially if you're married, widowed, or divorced, scrutinize that statement. If you're not sure, call and ask for a review. For the tax issue, plan ahead. Understand your total income picture. Add up your state pension, private pensions, rental income, savings interest, everything. Work out where you sit relative to tax thresholds. If you've got control over when you take income, think strategically about timing. Spreading income across multiple tax years can save you a fortune. Consider speaking to a financial advisor if your situation is complex. Yes, it costs money, but a good advisor can potentially save you thousands in tax. They can look at things like income splitting between spouses, timing of pension withdrawals, using all your available allowances efficiently. These are legitimate, legal ways to minimize your tax bill, and you'd be daft not to take advantage of them. Right, so there you have it, the complete picture of where UK pensions stand in November 2025, and honestly, it's not a pretty picture. We've got millions of pensioners losing winter fuel support just when they need it most. We've got a government admitting to £800 million in underpayments that never should have happened. And we've got a tax system that's dragging more and more pensioners into paying tax through frozen thresholds and fiscal drag. It's a perfect storm, and it's hitting the people who can least afford it. But here's the thing, knowledge is power. Now that you know what's happening, you can take action to protect yourself. Check your pension entitlements. Claim any benefits you're eligible for. Plan your tax position strategically. Don't just sit back and let these changes happen to you. Be proactive. Be informed. Fight for what's yours. If you found this video helpful, and I really hope you did, please smash that like button. It helps the algorithm show this video to more people who need to see it. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss future updates, because you can bet there'll be more pension news coming down the line. Drop a comment below and let me know how these changes are affecting you, or if you've got questions about anything I've covered. I try to read every single comment and respond where I can. Share this video with any pensioners you know, your parents, your grandparents, your elderly neighbors. This information could literally save them thousands of pounds, and in some cases, it could make the difference between a comfortable retirement and genuine financial hardship.